Ready. We're on live. Bienvenidas y bienvenidos al primer día de esta tercera edición del Foro Latinoamericano de Economía Circular y Residuos de Aparatos Eléctricos y Electrónicos, los famosos RAEEs. Estamos muy contentos de iniciar e inaugurar esta serie de conferencias y de paneles con una ponente con muchísima experiencia. Ella es Magdalena Charitanovics. Ella es Communication Manager del WEEE Forum, que es el Foro Internacional de los Residuos Electrónicos a nivel mundial. Y me voy a permitir presentar un poco sobre ella. Esa conferencia es en inglés. Pueden darle en YouTube, traducir de manera automática y de cualquier forma, si están viendo esta grabación, podrán ver los subtítulos. So Magdalena is a WEEE Forum Communications Manager with over 12 years experience in the e-waste sector. She coordinates the WEEE Forum's internal and external communications. She also coordinates the Forum's working group communication, as well as awareness-raising activities organized in collaboration with its members. This includes the International E-Waste Day that we are celebrating right now, held across the world each October. She also works on all the forum's European funded projects, leading on communication and supporting project management related work packages. Previously, Magdalena worked for Hale & Knowlton and APCO Worldwide, two of the world's largest public relations and public affairs consultancy. She holds master's degrees in languages and literature, and she's very fluent in Polish, French, English, and Italian. So welcome, Magdalena, and thank you for sharing with us today.
Thank you, Daniela, for the introduction. It's really a pleasure to be here, especially that it's been 6 years already that I have been dealing with the International E-Waste Day and preparing it every year. So to be here today and present to you on another side of the planet is really a great recognition for me. So let me maybe, show you my presentations and go directly to the topic. So before I explain the International E-Waste Day, let me tell you a few words about who we are in the WEEE Forum and what we do and why we do what we do. So these numbers are probably very well known to all of you. The e-waste is growing every year, and by 2030, it's predicted to rise up to 74 million tons. And already this year, it's more than 60 million tons that is generated yearly. And this is the issue we are trying to tackle with our members worldwide. Our members are producer responsibility organizations. So they are mainly based in Europe, because in Europe, the legislation requires for more than 21 years now the producers to have their producer responsibility organizations to collect e-waste on their behalf. But as the legislation is expanding also in other countries outside Europe, we have also members on other continents. And in Latin America, we have 2 members in Colombia. So our members collect e-waste, and in the last years, they collected more than 3 million tons of e-waste, which is the equivalent of 310 Eiffel Towers. And in the last years, for the whole duration of the WEEE Forum, they have collected more than 35 million tons of e-waste. So this is how we try to tackle the societal and global challenge of electronic waste. We are involved in different research and innovation projects, mostly funded by the European Union. We have projects focusing on different facets of the e-waste issue, for example, on critical raw materials or on fires caused by lithium-ion batteries. We also do strategic partnerships because obviously the e-waste problem is not a problem that can be solved by one single organization. So we work with many organizations in the sector for a better impact. We do also campaigns, and the International E-Waste Day is one of them. And for our members, we do a lot of different initiatives. One of them is twinning. It means that PRO, so Producer Responsibility Organization, from a country where the legislation and the e-waste collection system is already well set, twins actually with a PRO from a country where the legislation, for example, has just been installed and where they don't have a lot of experience yet. So they exchange practices, they brainstorm together. So that's a great initiative also for PROs in the countries that have just adopted the e-waste legislation, for example, to learn from the experience of the PROs that already have it for 20 years. We also offer benchmarking services and different IT tools for our members to compare or to understand their performances. But of course, it's also important to understand the nature and the scale of the problem of the e-waste issue. So let me give you a few words about this and show some statistics that we have gathered for different editions of the International E-Waste Day. So first of them, here on the first picture and the first infographic at the bottom, you can see the number of the e-waste growing up to 74 million tons in 2030. As I said, and it's very important to know that this is the fastest growing waste stream in the world. And unfortunately, we don't see any tipping point. So we see that it just keeps on growing and doesn't stop. We also know that the consumption of goods is growing, of course. And you can see here on the second picture, it's obviously schematic, but you can see all the electrical and electronic items that people possess, usually in their household. And in the infographic below, you can see the results of some surveys that we conducted in Europe with our members, which have shown that excluding lighting equipment, there is 74 electrical or electronic products in a typical household in Europe, and 13 of them are either broken or no longer used. So we see that there is a huge potential sleeping simply in people's drawers or cupboards, and that could be reused to recuperate the resources. Another issue, which is shown in the third column, are critical raw materials. In Europe, but I think also on other continents, we are quite dependent on countries like China to produce new technologies, but also to implement what in Europe we call a Green Deal. So it's a plan of the European Commission to make Europe carbon neutral by 2050. This obviously means a big need for critical raw materials to produce equipment like photovoltaic panels or wind turbines or electric cars. Materials such as lithium, neodymium, or cobalt are necessary to produce these equipments. And China is sitting, for example, on 90% of them, Russia on 40% of them. We know that there are also countries with a difficult political situation, such as Congo, which provides a lot of cobalt, where it is extracted in very bad conditions, often by children. So we would like in Europe to be independent on third countries or at least to be less dependent than we are at the moment. And we know that the electronic devices are part of the solution to that, because there is huge amount of resources in the electronics. As you can see here, for example, in 1 ton of mobile phone, there is 100 times more gold than in a ton of gold ore when you mine it. You also see on the second infographic at the bottom here how much silver and palladium and gold can be recuperated from printed circuit boards. And compared to this, on the right-hand side, you see how much phones, for example, are stored in people's houses. So in France, we have 113 million phones sleeping in the drawers. The European average, I heard recently, is about 2 unused phones per person. And last year, we had this global number of 5.3 billion mobile phones that were discarded yearly. So it's huge amounts. And we know that in these mobile phones, we have nearly all the elements from the Mendeleev's table. So there are a huge resource that could be used. But now the question is how to make these elements go back to the cycle. So how do we actually get all these electrical equipment from people's houses when they are not used anymore for a proper recycling? So we have conducted some research and we spoke with our members and we have identified 6 basic motivations for people to recycle their e-waste. And it may seem very simple, but knowledge is the first of them. So people have to know, first of all, what to do with e-waste, what is e-waste, where to bring it, and why actually they should know it, which are the dangers, which are the benefits. And this is why we do a lot of communication campaigns, and so do our members, to really explain to consumers the problem. Because for us, as we work in this sector, it may seem so obvious, but many people simply don't know it. They know that electronics shouldn't be put into the bin, but not more than that. Other motivation for consumers are convenient collection points. We know, and I think this is not a very big discovery, but none of us would drive 50 kilometers just to dispose of 1 USB stick. So this is another thing on which we are working, which our members implement locally in their countries, to make the return of electrical and electronic devices as easy as possible for consumers. So, for example, there are projects in France or in Switzerland where you can simply post your small electrical devices by post. So you put it in an envelope which is already paid for, and you simply put it to your own mail box. So it couldn't be simpler than that. Of course, these are small-scale projects, but there is more and more that is being done for the number of collection points, to also dispose of your electricals in shops and in different places to make it as easy as possible for consumers. Compensation is also one of the motivations, but not necessarily a financial compensation. It could be any kind of things that you receive in exchange of the equipment that you brought. For example, a plant to stay sustainable. And actually, it's not meant to be something on long term. The research has shown that compensating people on long term is not a good practice, because they would expect compensation every time they return the electricals. But it may be a good practice to install a good habit and to make people think about returning the electricals and why and how, etc. Another important point and motivations are social norms. So actually, we know that people simply look on what other people do. So we see if our neighbor is recycling, then we recycle as well. And I think that's one of our dreams, to make the recycling of e-waste also a social norm, as it is now the norm of recycling paper, glass, and other waste streams. Other motivations can be also care for the environment. We see it more and more with the climate emergency. And another one could be doing something good. So, for example, if you give your e-waste to charities or to other organizations, so you offer your old electricals to someone and you feel you have done something good for someone else, it also can serve as motivation. So these are some of our findings. And this is how now we try to put them in practice with the International E-Waste Day, which is an awareness raising campaign that we do around the world on the 14th of October every year. And this year is already the 6th edition. Just to give you an idea, last year we have over 190 companies that joined us officially, and many others that communicated and made some activities around the globe. We had a big press campaign, which covered more than 6 billion of potential reach online, with the big titles such as the Time magazine and BBC and so on, who covered our news story, which was really great because we could have seen that there was some impact also in the press, and it helped our case and our members who were working, let's say, on the ground and collecting e-waste and making campaigns in their countries as well. So I think the easiest way to really explain what the International E-Waste Day is to show you a little video, which I will play now. I will not put the sound on because it's just a simple music. So let me just play it here. This video really explains what happened last year, and this is what is happening every year in terms of awareness raising actions. So we try to always have also the policy support. So last year we had ITU's Secretary General who gave us a dedicated message. This year we will have the European Commissioner. We also try to do some research to show some good figures to make people understand the extent of the projects. So of the problem, sorry. So as I said, last year we had this study on hoarding. And for the last edition, we published some of the results of this study and based our press release on that as well. And our members and other companies do plenty of great things. As you can see here, it's TV appearances, it's radio interviews that give a lot of impact. There are also conferences and events taking place all around the world, as the one where we are here today. It's a lot of also school activities. We do know that reaching out to children is very important because through them, also their families, their teachers, and people around them, they also learn about the issues. And children are usually very motivated to bring their e-waste to school and also speak about it to their families. Important part of the E-Waste Day, as I said, was the press coverage, which was really great last year, but also social media. As you can see here, a lot is going on there, obviously, as it became a very important communication tool these days. And we have plenty of different stakeholders joining and making great things there. And obviously, very important, also practical side of this, making e-waste collections in the buildings, in the city centers, in schools, to really help people to do this right step. As you can see, there is also a lot of different creative campaigns, billboards around the cities. So different organizations really help us by doing whatever they think is the best solution in their local community to raise awareness. So as you can see, even cakes. So that was the last year's edition. And let me now tell you a few words about the this year's edition, which is already taking place this Saturday. So we have selected the theme of invisible e-waste for this year. And what we mean by this is all the electrical items that consumers don't identify as being e-waste. So it can be electrical cigarettes, it could be toys, any kind of power tools or small IT equipment, all these things like toothbrushes that we don't often think that they have a battery inside. And for many people, it can be quite surprising to realize that they are electronic and that they should be recycled as electronics. So we have this slogan this year: you can recycle anything with a plug, cable, or a battery. It's a very simple slogan, but I think it just gives the right message on how to identify these items if you hesitate. From our side, we, as I mentioned, have issued some statistics. We worked with Unitar, and we have some statistics on this invisible e-waste on which we have based our press campaign. We have done some Vox Pop videos to show the level of consumers' awareness. We have also, together with our members, interviewed different actors in the e-waste value chain who spoke about the invisible e-waste from their perspective. We have prepared a set of infographics as well, an animation, and we will have, as I mentioned, a video from the EU Commissioner for the occasion. So just to show you some statistics, these are the infographics we have already been releasing. The first one here on the left shows that over 9 million tons of e-waste could be not recognized as being e-waste. And this is a 1/6 actually of all the e-waste generated. So really a significant part. One of the most surprising discoveries for us was that the toys were the biggest part of it. So over 7 billion toys, so electrical or electronic toys, were discarded last year. And this means nearly one toy per one person on the planet. So I think that's really something quite shocking. We have also some good statistics for the beauty products. As I said, toothbrushes, grooming equipment. These are the things that people often don't realize are e-waste. The same for the 2 billion items of small IT equipment, as you can see here on the picture. And two other products that we have tackled were cables. As you can see here, also huge amount, enough to circle the Earth 107 times. And also a new trend in many countries in Europe are the electronic cigarettes, also called vapes, which, as you can see, are also discarded in big amounts. So 844 million vapes were discarded last year, and this is equivalent to 6 Eiffel Towers. And this is only for 1 year. So I think this gives the image of the problem. But I also wanted to show you, I will not show you the full video, but you can find it on our YouTube channel. For the occasion, we also have done, or our members rather have done in their countries, some Vox Pop street interviews with people. And we asked them to identify the electronic items that we were showing to them. And you can see that the results are really surprising. Maybe I will try to play it just for a moment. We have a Spanish translation as well here. So let me see if it works.
I'd say neither.
Neither.
Alle drie? Ja. Ik dacht toch, dat is een strekvraag.
Păi îmi imaginez că încărcătorul și bateria ar trebui să se ducă cel mai mult în direcția asta.
Quero saber uma coisa, vocês acham que isto é um equipamento elétrico?
Não.
Não?
Não.
E a Conceição?
Eu também penso que não.
Então isto é elétrico?
É, com certeza. É, sim, senhora.
Aparentemente sí, ¿no? Es un objeto electrónico.
Es un aparato electrónico.
Telecomanda.
So I think that gives you already an idea that it is sometimes very complicated for people to recognize correctly the electronical items. So I invite you to have a deeper look on our YouTube channel. And with this, I think I'm already going to my last slide, which is an invitation to all of you. If you would like to join us, you are still most welcome. The International E-Waste Day is on the 14th of October, so in 2 days. And even the smallest communication effort matters for us. As you have seen, we provide participants with a lot of materials that you could simply post on your social media or use on your websites. And that's already something that can help, because, of course, the more we are, the better for awareness raising. So here is the registration link, also in the QR code. You are most welcome to join us, of course. And I think with this, I'm getting to my last slide. But if you have any questions, if something appeared in the chat, of course, don't hesitate to let me know.
Thank you very much, Magdalena, for this presentation. And thank you very much. Muchas gracias a todas las personas que están conectadas en esta mañana. Por acá tengo una pregunta. I have a question, Magdalena. So it is expensive for an organization to give or provide recycled services of electronics?
Is it expensive to provide recycling services? Well, I'm not an expert on that, if I'm honest, but it depends on many things. I think in Europe, at least, how it works is that the e-waste collection companies, they have contracts with different recyclers who provide these services. They themselves, they have members who are producers. So I think these costs are somehow balanced. So in the end, it works as a business model, if I can say so.
And do you think there's a difference of technology available, for example, in Europe or in the United States and in Latin America? And do you think that can be a barrier for promoting the recycling of electronics?
I don't know very well the situation on other continents, so I can speak for Europe, where I see that the technology is really being developed very quickly, especially with the critical raw materials situation. So the European Union is now issuing a proposal for what they call the Critical Raw Materials Act. And they really want to push on new projects to have new recycling facilities to recycle as much of the critical raw materials as possible within Europe. It's a very complex process, of course, much more complex than just retrieving copper, gold, and iron, for example. But I know it's developing very fast because there is a need for that. So I would assume that in Europe we are quite good in it, but this is also because the legislation was in place for already more than 20 years. So maybe if there are differences, they might be caused by the differences in the legislations, of course.
Perfect. Well, I think that's the questions, Magdalena. Thank you very much. I don't know if you have a final message for all the people who is right now and who are watching the recording.
No, thank you very much for listening. And of course, my message would be join us on the 14th of October, either by registering or by simply speaking about it within your contacts, within your companies. As I said, even the smallest communication action matters. So you are all welcome to join us for the occasion.
Perfect. Thank you very much for being with us today. And now we are speaking again in Spanish. So thank you, Magdalena.
Thank you. Thank you. Muchas gracias.
Perfecto, pues agradecemos mucho esta conferencia inaugural del primer día del tercer Foro Latinoamericano de Economía Circular y de Residuos de Aparatos Eléctricos y Electrónicos. Me da mucho gusto que tengamos por acá ya varias personas conectadas, las que contamos. Buenos días, esperamos que sea un espacio de mucho aprendizaje. Saludos también hasta Chile, Abner, Epson en Environmental y Regulatory. Muchas gracias por acompañarnos. Por acá también nos acompañan desde Baja California, México, en la empresa Grupo Logistics. Perfecto. Justamente este evento no solo se trata de promover investigaciones, sino atraer a que más empresas que están en la industria eléctrica y electrónica puedan beneficiarse del aprendizaje de esta tarde. Por aquí tenemos también a Elsiux, buen día, perfecto. Por acá América, perfecto. Y les invitamos a que puedan estar mencionando cuál es su nombre, qué posición dentro de su organización tienen, cuál es su organización, cuál es su país, para poder estar fomentando estas alianzas, presentarles y que haya más personas conectadas con un propósito en común, que es implementar la economía circular y en este caso de los residuos electrónicos. Saludos hasta Tijuana, Verde Imperfecto, muchísimas gracias por acompañarnos. Mientras se siguen presentando, queremos darles mayor contexto y una introducción general sobre por qué estamos hoy conectados en este espacio. Primero vamos a entender un poco sobre de qué estamos hablando. Tal vez vieron como esta acotación de RAEEs. Vamos a entrar un poquito a entender primero qué son los AES, ¿no? Son las siglas de los aparatos eléctricos y electrónicos. ¿Y cuáles son estos? Van desde los electrodomésticos que tenemos en casa, desde la licuadora hasta todo lo que tiene que ver con nuestros smartphones, nuestras computadoras, el cable, estos audífonos, todo esto entra en ese sector, e incluso ya aparatos más desarrollados como lo pueden ser los paneles solares. ¿Qué es lo que está pasando? Que los aparatos electrónicos y eléctricos han cambiado nuestra vida, han hecho que la vida sea mucho más fácil, más sencilla, más rápida, y el que más personas tengamos acceso a ello, pues ha hecho que el nivel de vida ha aumentado radicalmente en los últimos 100, 150 años. Pero como todo, la forma de producir y de consumir está llegando a un punto en donde es insuficiente. Necesitamos repensar por nuestra propia salud y nuestro propio bienestar. El tener un aparato electrónico en toda su cadena de valor, no solo el momento de usar y desechar, genera un impacto. Desde los minerales que se tienen que extraer, están muy vinculados con la industria minera, y porque se requieren cobalto, cobre, oro, y ese proceso de extracción no tenemos minerales infinitos, por lo tanto, uno, nos estamos quedando sin materiales, insumos, y dos, el proceso extractivo ya cada vez es más agresivo para nuestra tierra. Y todo eso, hay muchos materiales que se desperdician en toda la cadena de producción, en todo el tema de logística, en todo el tema de uso, y prácticamente los electrónicos duran muy poco. Y cuando duran, ¿qué es lo que pasa? Se van al vertedero. Como consumidores no tenemos la conciencia y ni la educación de qué hacer con esos aparatos electrónicos, y cómo podemos llevarlos a un lugar en donde se puedan recuperar esos materiales. Quiero agradecer también al Instituto de Lengua de Señas Mexicana por acompañarse y sumarse a este evento para poder llegar y compartir el conocimiento a más personas. Así es que muchísimas gracias. Vamos acá. Entonces llegamos a explicar qué son los RAEEs. Pues precisamente son todos estos aparatos eléctricos y electrónicos que sus partes han sido desechadas y que se han desechado como residuos sin la intención de reutilizarlos. Malamente se le conoce como la basura electrónica. ¿Y por qué decimos malamente? Porque tanto en Estrategia Circular como en Earthlight University creemos que la basura no existe y es un problema simplemente de que no estamos poniendo en la disposición adecuada los materiales y a las personas adecuadas que los pueden aprovechar. Y aquí es donde hay un enorme potencial en la industria de productos eléctricos y electrónicos de pasar de un modelo de negocio lineal en donde hay una extracción, una producción, logística, distribución, venta y vertedero, a hacerlo pues completamente circular, que por acá tengo una breve imagen para presentárselos. Un tantito. Ahí es. Listo. Entonces, acá inicia el proceso de economía circular o la estrategia de economía circular en el sector minero desde la fuente o desde el origen, ¿no? O sea, primero cómo se van a extraer los materiales, después cómo estamos pensando nuestros productos. Al estar en una economía que es una desviación del capitalismo hacia un consumo extremo, en donde el crecimiento está asociado a producir y comprar más, hemos dejado de pensar en producir y crecer mejor. Entonces, en vez de tener mejores productos, lo que pasa es que estos productos están con una obsolescencia para que nos duren muy poco. Y ahí hay la primera oportunidad de la economía circular para hacer un rediseño, un diseño sostenible o lo que se conoce como ecodiseño, para que los productos puedan durar, para que se puedan hacer reparaciones y reutilizaciones, para que incluso se pueda generar una línea de negocio de productos de segunda mano o de productos de reparaciones, y no tengamos que estar siempre pensando en comprar el modelo más nuevo o en estar renovando nuestros electrónicos cada año cuando es insostenible, porque es que, repito, no tenemos los minerales ni los recursos suficientes para estar abasteciendo a toda la cantidad de población que somos. En la producción entra también una oportunidad de circularidad, de reintegrar todo lo que se considera chatarra al proceso de fabricación o las famosas mermas que se puedan aprovechar para hacer nuevos componentes, y entonces ahí en ese proceso ya hay una oportunidad de aprovechamiento. Después, en la parte de uso viene la oportunidad de reparar, de dar una segunda vida, de que se extienda la vida útil y que incluso esto pueda ser también un modelo de negocio. Es decir, pensar que para que las empresas crezcan, no siempre tienen que estar pensando en producir más, en vender más, sino en cómo aprovechar al máximo lo que tenemos. Es considerar que nuestros recursos son finitos, no son infinitos. Estamos en una mentalidad de desperdicio absoluto y lo que la economía circular viene acá a enseñarnos es todo es valioso y ya estamos en un momento en donde no nos podemos dar el lujo de desperdiciar y esto que en ese momento consideras desperdicio, basura, realmente puede valer mucho, ya sea para generarte ahorros o para incrementar tus ingresos. Y finalmente, en el fin de vida, que haya espacios en donde se puedan recuperar estos materiales, promover el reciclaje. El reciclaje de electrónicos me parece que, a diferencia de otro tipo de residuos, tiene un porcentaje de reciclaje un poquito mayor, me parece que es del 12%. Estamos hablando que el promedio de reciclaje es del 9% en Latinoamérica, pero aún así es muy bajo y nos estamos perdiendo de una gran oportunidad para nuestras empresas y también como consumidores. ¿Qué es lo que pasa? A diferencia de otros residuos en donde se quedan en el vertedero, los residuos electrónicos generan un impacto nocivo a la salud por todos los minerales que están soltando al momento de descomponerse. Afectan a la fauna que está en el lugar. Estos minerales caen al suelo, lo contaminan, afectando también a todo lo que todo lo que se vincule con el suelo. A las comunidades alrededor de estos espacios pueden respirar la contaminación derivada o lo que se conoce pues eso como los gases de efecto invernadero, que todo empieza a desprender y al final eso llega a nosotros, porque a veces vemos que el impacto está muy lejano, pero estamos todos conectados en esta tierra y va a impactar también negativamente en nuestra salud. Si decimos, oye, ¿sabes qué? La parte de salud a mí no me importa, lo que me importa es la parte de negocio, pues es que también se están perdiendo recursos valiosos y algo que tú estás comprando ahora súper caro porque hay escasez de materiales, pues simplemente lo que hay que voltear a ver es lo que se puede aprovechar de esos residuos. Así es que con esta filosofía y este propósito es que Estrategia Circular MX ha creado, organizado este foro en el que desde Earthlight University somos orgullosos aliados, asimismo como Obbusdsman Energía México y la Asociación Mexicana de Recicladores de residuos electrónicos y Ceiba, con la idea pues, de hablar de este tema que tal vez parece un poco invisibilizado, pero impacta de muchas maneras, porque al final ¿quién en este planeta no tiene un electrónico en su vida? Estamos en este momento en una computadora. Entonces, desde aquí, ¿qué va a pasar con esta computadora cuando ya no sirva? O si la vamos a mandar a reparar, o si queremos mandarla a reciclar, o si queremos adquirir otra, ¿de dónde va a venir? Entonces, en este mundo ya tan globalizado, con tanta tecnología, no, es un tema que nos compete a todos. Y sobre todo, algo que a nosotros nos emociona mucho es que lo que van a ver en estos 3 días es generación de conocimiento. Hay muchas empresas trabajando en proyectos súper interesantes de aprovechamiento de electrónicos o que están vinculados al sector de la minería o que están haciendo desde el gobierno, desde la normativa, y de verdad que hay pocas personas que tienen acceso a esta información porque no muchas veces se da la oportunidad de compartir esto. Y hemos tenido investigadores o personas desde diferentes partes del mundo que han tocado la puerta y que nos han solicitado información de este foro porque no hay literatura, no hay información científica veraz a la que acudir sobre este tema. Así es que sintámonos privilegiados por ser de las primeras personas en conocer lo que está sucediendo en la industria, en la economía circular. Y me gustaría compartirles un poco sobre qué es lo que vamos a ver en el día 1 de este foro. En un momento más va a estar Joana Rosales, que es la fundadora y directora de Triple Impacto de Vermonte, de Ecuador, con el tema de la tecnología IT, de la digitalización al propósito. Nos acompaña también Javier Barreda Yo. Él es desde Perú, él es egresado de la Universidad de Ingeniería y Tecnología, la UTEC, y nos va a hablar sobre cómo podemos estimar la huella de carbono en la recuperación circular de los imanes de tierras raras provenientes de dispositivos móviles. Así es que creo que es un tema súper interesante del que pocos conocemos. Les invitamos también a que nos acompañen. Más tarde, igualmente de la UTEC Perú, nos acompaña José Cerdán Morillo. Van a presentar el mismo tema. Y viene después con el jefe de la Oficina de Economía Circular del Ministerio de Medio Ambiente de Chile, Tomás Saig, en donde va a hablar del anteproyecto que tienen para el decreto de Supremo de metas, pilas y aparatos electrónicos y electrónicos, una propuesta de regulación de estos residuos para Chile. Así es que para los que estén interesados en temas de normativa, les invitamos a que se queden a esa plática. Tenemos presencia de Ecuador, de la empresa Electronics, donde nos van a hablar sobre las estrategias, retos y oportunidades en la gestión de RAEEs, por allá, con el maestro Gustavo Marriott Vallas. Y nuestra conferencia magistral de la tarde, pues es un honor para nosotros que esté presente por segundo año consecutivo el doctor Walter Stachel, que es uno de los padres de la economía circular, prácticamente ha desarrollado toda la teoría de la economía del rendimiento, que precisamente muchas de las herramientas que usa la economía circular en realidad son de la economía del rendimiento, y nos va a hablar sobre cómo aprovechar las oportunidades y superar los obstáculos que en estos momentos se enfrenta la economía circular. Vamos a tener un receso y más tarde de la Universidad EAN nos acompaña José Martínez Sepúlveda para hablar sobre el panorama actual de la implementación de la economía circular de los RAEEs en Colombia y de cara al 2020-30. Y Claudio Escalante, que es técnico de sostenibilidad de AENOR, esta organización internacional, y él está acá en México, va a hablar sobre todo lo que tiene que ver con la descarbonización de la actividad empresarial, lo que se conoce como la huella de carbono, y AENOR lo que está haciendo pues precisamente es llevar todo este tema de normas, ISOs, y va a estar muy interesante para los que estén vinculados al tema de operaciones y procesos de las empresas. Y vamos a tener también la presencia de Biocéntrica, a la directora Silvana Ibarra Madrigal, también de México, y nos va a hablar si es posible hablar de refrigeración sostenible en América Latina. Vamos a terminar este día con la presencia de mujeres ecoconstructoras, con la socia fundadora Carmina Borja, y va a estar dentro de este mismo panel hablando sobre este tema de refrigeración, sostenibilidad, construcción, ¿es posible o no? Así es que, como ven, tenemos un día súper interesante. Aprovechen, tomen notas, pregunten, preséntense. Recuerden que tratamos que este espacio sea de vinculación, de compartir entre todos, de hacer redes. Y antes me voy a permitir por acá ver desde dónde nos acompañan. Eliana Pañuela de Residuos y Aparatos Electrónicos Colombia SAS. Perfecto, entonces también acá tenemos una experta. Les invitamos a todos los que nos acompañan que si están vinculados a la industria electrónica y están haciendo algo en temas de economía circular y aprovechamiento de residuos, se postulen para ser ponentes el siguiente año. Muchos de nuestros ponentes participaron y presentaron sus proyectos de innovación para estar el día de hoy, así es que les animamos a que si tienen un proyecto, lo puedan documentar y lo puedan compartir y hacer más enriquecedor estos espacios. Saludos hasta Colombia, Eliana, y esperamos que aproveches mucho este espacio. Nos acompaña Elsa Jiménez, asesora de proyectos ambientales en el Bosque de Aragón, Secretaría de Medio Ambiente. Muchas gracias, Elsa, por sumarte, y esperamos que pueda ser interesante también todo lo que compartamos esta tarde. Bienvenido Verde Imperfecto. Cecilia López es creadora de Verde Imperfecto y a través de las redes sociales comparte información ambiental y acciones que todos podemos hacer para llevar una vida más sustentable. Esperamos que lo que encuentres en este foro lo puedas divulgar y compartir con más personas. También justo por acá tenerte Sergio Álvarez, presidente de la Comisión de Economía Circular de la Unión de Empresarios del Estado de México. Bienvenido, nos alegra que haya cada vez más asociaciones empresariales impulsando la economía circular. Paola López desde Cancún, orgullosa alumna de doctorado de Economía Circular de la Earth and Life University, que además está ya en otro proceso de doctorado y con otros proyectos que no he puesto por acá, pero gusto tenerte por estos lados, Pau. Y con esto, pues para mí, como directora de Earth Life University, aliados de los organizadores principales, que es Estrategia Circular MX. Este evento también organizado nuevamente entre Obbusdsman México, AC, Ceiba y la Asociación Mexicana de Recicladores de Residuos Electrónicos. Pues para nosotros es un honor darles la inauguración oficial de la tercera edición del Foro Latinoamericano de Economía Circular y Residuos de Aparatos Electrónicos y Eléctricos. Así es que aplausos virtuales. Muchas gracias por acompañarnos y en 9 minutos nos conectamos para la siguiente ponencia. Esperamos que aprovechen al máximo este espacio. No se desconecten. Muchas gracias, Instituto de Lenguas de Señas Mexicanas, también por acompañarnos esta mañana.